My first experience was great because it's the first time that I saw such a setup of the church, the presentation, the type of the preaching. It was very easy to understand and touching and relevant. And it was good. The praise and worship was awesome.
The first time was interesting. We were a couple of us. We met under a tree, just right here at the sanctuary. And at that time, we couldn't see the vision, but we knew there was something coming up. We just trusted in God, and here we are 4 years later.
Right there in the small parking area, we were like 16, 15, 17 of us. Very first service, I can remember it vividly, really blessed. First service, the church also got its firstborn. Collins gave his life to God on that day, I can't forget. The first service, we had the firstborn from the church. That was the greatest, that's the best thing I can remember of that service.
Being a man that operates on faith, Reverend Simon Matiko had set the launch date of the church for the 5th of November 2017, long before he had even moved out of Nairobi. And after the successful Sunday service, planning began as the date was first approaching.
By the time we get to the second and third Sunday, now that is now when, of course, even the church in Nairobi, now we had worked on the documentation, the owner had agreed for us to start the groundbreaking, and just erect this tabernacle.
We were in a rush. We had already set the launch day for the church, even way before we came to Malindi. When we were leaving River of God Church, we had already set that 5th of November would be the launch date of our church, whether it would be in our house, whether it would be under a tree. So that was a moment of faith being tested, yeah. So now when we are meeting with these people, we are telling them, by the way, on 5th November, there will be people coming from Nairobi and all over the place to come and launch the church. So we need to set up the facility. So we were drawing now the documents with our lawyers to make sure that we have the lease documents, so that because we can't start without having that. We went to the council, whatever, to get the permits to be able to construct. We got the contractors. I remember our first foreman, Desmond Kalende, who did such an amazing job. So we started. So I remember the Sunday, 19th, I think it was on us, no, the 18th or rather there. So we told the people, now we are going to pray, and tomorrow we are doing the groundbreaking. So we held hands. I remember after the service, we walked out, we went and held hands, we prayed, and we started.
On 19th October 2017, they did the groundbreaking and construction works started. The people that were attending the Friday fellowship and Sunday services would take turns to volunteer and participate in manual work during the construction. None was left behind. Everyone wanted to be a part of this amazing work. It was an exciting time for all of them. Something that was a dream was unfolding right before their very eyes.
There was lots of work. Putting in the big poles was really difficult because you had to dig deep. Making them plumb was also a challenge, and they're really heavy. But with God's grace, here we are. Luckily, no incidences during building, no accidents. Just the usual hiccups you'd expect on a construction site, but nothing major. God's grace saw us through all this in a record time. We were working on a deadline of November 4th. So every morning, Pastor would come and tell us, hey people, we have 3 more days, 2 more days, 1 more day. And you look at the amount of work to be done, you say, Mungu kuja. But he came through for us.
Having in mind this is cost. So one of the things we had to consider is heat. Sometimes this place is extremely hot. We also near the ocean. hence the name Oceans Assemblies Church of God. So sometimes it could be humid, it could be windy and all that. So we had to put all those factors in place and find a design and a location that perfectly matches with what we needed. There were some suggestions we needed to put it in front, but eventually we decided to put it here, and we said we'll put makuti, something beautiful and something that suits the Costarian design. And eventually, once we did, we put the money together, and like I said, we had a lot of support from well-wishers. Our main church, that is O.A.G, really gave us a lot of support, and it happened.
5th November 2017 will be a day they will never forget, as it was the day that marked the full reality of things. About 80 people from River of God Church came to support them and witness the doing of the Lord.
On the 5th of November, we were going to launch this church. So guys were already told about it. We had already communicated to Nairobi Church, that was River of God Church, friends from all over, Mombasa, Malindi. So it was well communicated, and we were just like less than 20 by then. But by God's grace, we managed to plan the whole event. And I remember Bishop Kiama and some River of God Church members came a little bit early. And it was just one of those moments when I'm looking forward for the launch and it was just one of those experiences, a day that I was looking forward to. And we had quite a big number that came from Nairobi, almost 100 people. And so our first Sunday, that day, we had hired almost 270 seats, and they were all filled with people. And now remember, a big number is from Nairobi, and we also have people who have been invited from different churches, from the Assemblies of God churches, Kenya Assemblies of God churches in Malindi. So guys came, pastors came, our Bishop Kimani was here, to do all the dedication, pastors, the presbyters. So it was quite, an event, and so we came, and so on that material day, we had lunch, we had people. It was quite a good experience. And I remember our first ever offering that we took was almost 40,000. And what we did with that 40,000 was to offset a debt of our sister church that is at Kibokoni. We were able to pay for them to get the piece of land that they are in.
Let me just say, because maybe there will be someone wondering, you are a new church and you're constructing, so where are you getting the money from? The church we came from, our home church, River of God Church, wow, they were amazing, and they've been amazing in this journey of faith. And I think when you wait upon and when something is from the Lord, where the Lord sends you, He sustains you. And we have attested to that. We have seen it in action. Because we waited and we were released officially, the church that we came from fully supported the work. Now we had people here from Malindi that had talked to their families and their friends, their banks, I remember Safaricom, where we used to go and fellowship, because my husband, once we got here, my husband got, he's a people's person. He'd go and fellowship here, then Nakumat, and then Safaricom. And so he told them, we'll have this lounge of the church, and people came.
That day was amazing. People owned that. People owned the church, people owned the vision at that point, and people just stepped up and did what they need to do.
The presbyter from Mombasa, including Pastor Tony Kiama, they inaugurated the church, gave us the blessings, anointed it, and I can say God's grace has been on us ever since. The pillar was out of this world that day. Really nice.
The launch was we were so excited. We had visitors from O.A.G. The church was full. By then we had already built the sanctuary, and there was so much going on. I did the food. The theme was African, so the place was so full of pomp and color. The food was great. Everybody in the church had a part to play. There are those who took ushering, there was the food and the security. So that was the first time as a church where everybody got involved, and it was amazing.
We had lots of guests coming from Nairobi, France and all that. And it was good because I remember whatever happened up to now, I'm still clinging on to that.
Since the launch of the church 4 years ago, we have experienced tremendous growth, and we can only count it as the favor of God.
For you to measure the impact is to see whether what is happening, it is in line with the vision that we have as a church. Ocean Assemblies of God is a church that is reaching out to people with a life-changing gospel of the kingdom of God. When you look at our mission statement, that is trace, tend, train and transit. Basically, we are here to look for people, who are born again or not born again, those who are, the unchurched, the bedtime Baptist, those people who watch from, the comfort of their rooms, some who used to go and they don't. And so by God's grace, we've been able to reach out to as many as possible. And how? It was just by word of mouth.
When I look at where we came from the day we landed in Malindi, that was in September 1st, 2017, to now, I can only say there's a lot of impact that I see in the lives of the people that I relate with. When we started this church, it was a two-people show. It was Pastor Sach doing this and Pastor Pauline doing that. Right now, we can go to Nairobi for a week or two, and the church will continue. Sermons will be preached. Discipleship classes will go on. Children will be taught. Home fellowships will go on. Marriage ministry will continue. And that can only be because there has been an impact through this ministry. We have ushering ministry that I do not have to ask who is doing what or who is going where. I have a leader or leaders that have taken that upon themselves. They have owned the mission and the vision of the church. Today, it's when I want that I can walk into the teens ministry to just know what they are being taught. But we have amazing teachers that have taken that upon themselves. They will tell you, this is a study we are doing. They will even come and initiate talks and say, Pastor, we are thinking of doing this. Right now in the worship, because I used to be the worship, in fact, when we started the church, I led the worship, praise and worship, for 8 good months alone, because nobody else believed. Yeah, I had a backup team, but nobody believed they were good enough to lead. They felt, we can back you up. Today, in fact, in a year, I can lead 3 times if I want, because I have a team, I have amazing people. And that can only be because of the impact that we have made in the lives of people. I see people who came in confused, not sure about themselves, with low self-esteem, low self-image, not believing that they can, and God can use them because maybe they have messed here and there. And now I look at them, they are serving, they have taken upon, missions to go this. Sometimes they come and say, Pasi, we are going out, we are going to preach. I mean, that can only be the impact of the people. And I see Ocean Assemblies of God is a family church. So you hear people are reaching out to others, even without involving the pastors. I hear testimonies of people who say, I was looking for a church where I can feel I belong, where I can feel I have something to give. And now they are doing it. They are doing it. So that can only be because there has been a positive impact in the lives of the people.
Our mission continues to be to trace those that are lost, tend them with the love of Christ, train them to be disciples and to obey, and transit them to make other disciples.